And welcome to Open Mic Gripe with myself, Jeffrey Ide.
And Jay Rice.
The place where serious and silly complaints come to chat.
Open Mic Gripe is a weekly podcast dedicated to hearing your gripes, grievances, and opinions on any and all topics.
Every episode, Jay and I will have an opportunity to get to the bottom of the issues which are lingering on the back of your mind and engage you in order to create constructive conversation using a combination of lighthearted comedy and well-formed logic.
If you feel like we are wrong, inappropriate, or biased, and let's be honest, likely you will, then call in, email, or tweet and let your voice be heard. You can email us at openmicgripe@gmail.com or tweet us at openmicgripe. And both of those are one word, Open Mic Gripe.
Personally, I love being corrected, but I want to impress that we can only learn by sharing our and your perspectives.
You know, as a comedian, I want everyone to feel open to sharing their views, and then potentially having them ridiculed.
On this show, I will always respect the individuals who share with us, but your views, beliefs, and values are all up for debate. I hold nothing sacred.
I also hold nothing sacred. I may not even respect you, but I do like you.
So jump on in and gripe on the open mic with Jay Rice and Jeffrey Ide.
So, again, welcome, everybody, for coming out to the Open Mic Gripe. This is actually our first episode. Woo! So, yeah, hey, yeah, big round of applause there. There's a lot of people here.
A lot of people.
Yeah, could you not hear that uproarious applause from this live audience?
It's overwhelming.
Yes, I mean, I'm tearing up as we speak.
No, I'm actually really honored that we can be sitting here and actually making a show. We've been talking about this for a little while.
Yes, we have.
And I'm hoping to share a little bit with the audience, the idea behind the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you overshare, but you know what? I'm sure people will come to realize that pretty quickly.
I told you that in secrecy. No.
Well, so I guess I'm not good at secrets.
Well, that'll make the show interesting.
That's true. That's true. So let's be honest, I'm probably going to talk about things I should not be talking about.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure it will happen. But yeah, so this is the Open Mic Gripe. As we mentioned before, it is the place where serious and silly complaints come to talk, come to chat. I screwed that up already. Whatever. Episode
1.
We're not gonna edit that because I don't want to spend that much time editing.
I think you're allowed to make a few flubs. This is episode 1.
Very true.
So Jay and I got together a while back to make a podcast. We wanted to make a podcast, and we had some general ideas, but we didn't have the structure lined up. And at first, what we had intended was a show that was going to be about specifically issues on philosophy, science, and religion in today's society.
Well, you know, and let's be honest, like maybe people want a little bit of background about us. We both are here from, this is actually coming to you from Fargo, North Dakota.
Woo, Fargo.
Yes, North Dakota.
North Dakota.
If you couldn't hear that long O accent. And the thing is we got together because, well, you know what? I guess I have to say it. We're both atheists.
The cat's out of the bag.
Yes, it could be trouble already. But realize that this is not specifically an atheist podcast. But how this show did come about is I met Jeffrey through, basically it was a meetup. And let's just say I was a very angry atheist. And I had no place. Again, like I said, we're coming to you from Fargo, North Dakota.
Not the most tolerant place in the country.
No, I would say it would be like the second Bible Belt. It's like the Bible fanny pack.
Oh yes, I like that. The Bible fanny pack.
I think it's like the Bible fanny pack.
Can we put that on the city sign? Welcome to Fargo, the Bible's fanny pack.
I know, it almost sounds evil.
So I host the group every week. That's called the FM Secular Community, which stands for Fargo Moorhead. And the idea was we wanted to create a diverse crowd of people from religious and non-religious backgrounds to feel comfortable to come together and have honest and open discussion without taboos.
Right.
And it turned out to be such a popular format that so many people who previously felt unable to talk about politics or religion or philosophy or science were now able to come out and say, hey, I want to discuss this.
And I think for me, really, like, a lot of people know me as a very, if they look back on my Facebook page and everything, they'd be like, oh, you're a very angry, militant atheist. And the reason why is because I just didn't have anybody to talk to about feeling so alone. And so luckily I ended up finding Jeffrey's group and went out and met up with them. And then after time, ended up even getting away from the group because I realized that, yeah, there are people out there like me. There are other atheists in Fargo Moorhead. And when Jeffrey and I were kind of talking about a podcast, originally we kind of thought that, it just kind of made sense to have an atheist podcast. But the more that we talked with each other,
yes,
we realized what we're interested in goes far beyond atheism.
Right. And, we certainly don't want to be stuck on that one track. Honestly, I've been greatly inspired by a lot of the activists in this country, including Matt Dillahunty and the rest of the cast from the Atheist Experience. And along the way, we figured out that to have such a focused show would really diminish the possibility of talking about politics, of talking about other philosophical issues.
Talking about dick jokes.
Dick jokes. We want to talk about social justice issues. We want to talk about immaturity.
Fart jokes.
Yes. I'm going to leave the jokes to Jay.
Vagina jokes. That's all. Those are the 3 jokes that we're going to be talking about.
So the idea is we want to create a platform. It's very similar to the organization I helped to put up. And the idea is we want you to call in. We want you to write in. We want you to tweet us with the gripes, the things on your mind. We want to hear what's grinding your gear. We want to hear what's tickling the back of your head.
Yeah, so when we were talking about starting the show, I mean, one thing that we kind of got to is we just realized that we both had a lot of complaints about a variety of topics. And I started thinking about how, I'm like, geez, everybody has a complaint.
Yes.
And then that's kind of what started it. I should say that we are called the Open Mic Gripe. I actually host my own comedy show every single week here in town.
Highly recommended.
Thank you very much. And the thing is, if you don't have a knowledge of comedy, comedians, to hone their craft, they actually go out to open mics where they basically get 5 minutes to try all of their material, and a lot of times you're working on new stuff. And anybody can come out and they get 5 minutes, and you can talk about whatever you want. And I realized, like, what a great format for a podcast, except for and then putting that into complaints.
I'd stand up on the stage and make some jokes, but it would be considered a human rights violation.
And probably just sad. I mean, I've mentioned, you'll come to find out, Jeffrey does not have the best comedic timing.
That's all right. I appreciate good talent when I hear it.
Yes. Well, our tagline is that where serious and silly complaints come to chat. And as you'll come to realize, Jeffrey is a little bit more serious and I'm a little bit more silly.
Oh, I love being pedantic. Almost as much as I love being right.
Yes.
Anyway, so, this was a great opportunity to think about the things that first directly affect myself and yourself. We were talking a little bit about before the show. Mm-hmm. And although we're not going to be focusing this show on the concept of atheism, we decided that it would be a great topic to really start things up and hopefully to stir the pot. We want to, more than anything, create positive dialogue for people. So we want to hear your opinions about these things. We want to understand what the differences are. Because I cannot speak for any other atheist. Mm-hmm. I certainly cannot speak for any other secular activist. So let's hear what you have to say about it.
I mean, we really want this to be the people's podcast. I should say, I really should have looked online before. Maybe there actually is something called the People's Podcast.
It's probably a libertarian podcast, but
who knows?
So what I wanted to do is bring up a few subjects about the idea of atheism that have been, something that have been nagging in the back of my head. So, for example, one of the big issues that Jay has already mentioned is that this idea that no matter what part of the country, no matter how tolerant people are, there's always going to be this feeling of oppression when it comes to coming out in public as non-religious.
Oh, yeah? Did I bring this up? Really?
Well, you mentioned it before about you were a little bit angry, and you.
Oh, that's true. That is true. I was like, I don't remember talking about oppression, but you're right. I did. I guess I did. It was a soft opening.
And, honestly, what I find is that until you're able to give people a sense of social validation, they're unable to really help themselves and to help other people in the meantime. So what I want to do...
And actually, that's true, because initially, all I really was looking for was to know that I wasn't alone. And then actually, once I found that out, I got away from kind of the social aspect of it and went more into the activism part of it. Because I think just knowing that people are out there like me helped. And then I was just like, oh, I'd like to help other people.
And you became a board member of a large... activist group?
Yes, I did.
See? Proven success rate. 100%. No.
Yeah, let's go with that. So far, I'm at 100% success rate.
And so before I start talking about what I think atheism is, I think what interests me more is how the public perceives atheism.
Right. And especially in a place, and I'm guessing we're not alone up here in North Dakota in the way that people react to atheists.
Personally, I see myself as a diplomat in society. A couple weeks ago, I spent some time at the local mosque. I know most of the local church leaders in town, and we keep very close contact, and I consider them close friends. As an atheist, I wish to dispel not only some of the demonization that occurs, but also to get to the root of where a lot of that fear comes from.
Right. Well, I mean... I think a lot of people know it is fear of the unknown. That's a big part of it. I mean, when I came out to my mom, when I told her, my coming out story isn't even my own to tell, because it was actually the girl that I was dating at the time is the one who told my mother. My mother said something about, because I grew up Catholic, and my mother said something, and she just goes, "What?" She goes, "No, Jay's an atheist," and she was just like, "No, he's not." And then and luckily my parents are they're very open people, and over some time we just kind of talked about it, and everything's fine now. But the thing is my mother had never met anyone who was an atheist.
Well, and also nothing stronger than a mother's denial.
And I think one thing for her, it was a lot. I asked her, I said, did you think that I'm going to hell or something like that? And it wasn't even that. It was just that she had never questioned her religion in the whole time that she had grew up in the Catholic Church. So more, it was just that gut instinct of, oh, my son's an atheist. And it wasn't even like this worrying that I'm going to go to hell or that, I guess she was worried that I was a bad person. That she was worried that I was a bad person. And, I think once she realized that I'm still the same person that she raised, that helped out.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues that comes up is this idea in the Midwest here, especially for anybody who's listening who's not from the Midwest of the United States. You might have heard about Midwestern nice, or around here we say Minnesota nice.
Even though we're in North Dakota.
Yeah, Midwestern nice, that works. Honestly, what I find is that what they're actually trying to say is Midwestern passive. As a population, the people here, and I've only recently moved here, so I'm kind of discovering this firsthand, they're so eager to avoid conflict at any cost. And I certainly do think they mean well. I think the people here are trying to avoid conflict to make peace. But by doing so, nobody has any practice to discuss controversial issues about sexuality, about religion, about politics, and everyone gets really awkward when you bring these subjects up. It's kind of... you can't help but feel a little bit awkward for the person who doesn't have any practice with these topics.
Well, in a story that reminds me of is, in a simpler way to put it, like if a waiter brings something to us and it's wrong, we'll just say, "Oh, that everything's fine.
Yes.
And then they'll go away, and then we'll complain to our friends about that. And that's why we pick on our friends a lot. But then when I had some friends come up from the South, and they saw how much I even pick on my friends, they were just like, oh, that seems awful. But the reason behind that is down in the South, and I'm not trying to generalize, but they're much more open to, like, if a waiter brings something and it's wrong, they'll actually tell the waiter that it's wrong.
But I've actually seen... having worked momentarily in the restaurant business, I've actually seen waiters come back to the staff area and say, "Can you believe it? That customer told me what was wrong with their dinner." So I mean, it's become such a norm here. We just try to we expect people to internalize their frustrations, which I don't find to be very healthy. But who am I to say?
Sure.
And I guess one of my other frustrations about this idea of atheism is that even amongst...
I'm sure the ideas of atheism frustrate a lot of people.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. I'm hoping there's someone...
Especially here in the fanny pack.
The fanny pack?
The Bible fanny pack.
The Bible fanny pack. I'm just imagining someone, a church mom out there is grinding her teeth to this podcast. But, when it comes down to it, I find so many... people, and statistically speaking, of the millennial generation in this country, over 30% of millennial generation does not follow any religion at all. It's not to say that they're atheist, but it just means that they're not religious. And I have met a lot of people who, for all intents and purposes, are atheists, but they completely misunderstand the very basic terminology.
Right, and I think a lot of that, too, is fear, is that they... and again, not just in this area, but in many areas, it's much easier and safer to be Catholic or Lutheran or whatever religion as opposed to being atheist. Just because, and even if they are, there might be like, oh, well, I'm spiritual.
Yes.
I'm
right.
spiritual. What does that mean?
Well, it can mean
whatever.
It
means whatever you want.
Yeah.
Which it means I don't believe in anything, but there's spirits?
But you have to admit, Jay, that the word atheist, it has this effect on people.
Absolutely.
When you say it, people will either start looking at they want to talk about the weather suddenly, or they want to walk away, or they're going to go treat you completely differently.
Absolutely. And that exact thing has happened to me where I've worked in offices and had great working relationships with somebody. People outside of my generation, people very different than myself, and had a great working relationship. And then finally, after so long into the work relationship, they end up saying, like, oh, what church do you go to? Or what religion are you? And just as a matter of fact, I just say, oh, I'm atheist. And you can just see their face just like drop, like you punched them in the stomach or something. And then all of a sudden that Midwestern nice comes out and they try to fake that smile. And I would notice that it is never the same. Yes. After that, and it's nothing, and I just told you I was an atheist. That's all. I didn't do anything else. I just told you what you asked.
Well, it comes with so many presuppositions, and I'm finding people often prefer terminology which is less feather ruffling. You can say people will call themselves, say, agnostic, or as you said, spiritual, or just simply say not religious. As opposed to saying the word atheist, because they're afraid of how people will react.
Right, and I've run across people too that are just like, well, I'm not an atheist, and people that I am closer to, I'll just be like, so do you believe there is a God? And they're like, well, no, and I'm like, well, I don't mean to be technical, but well, technically, you're an atheist.
Yeah, well, I find myself because I love language. I love learning language, and
I'm glad you found yourself, Jeffrey.
Yes, I'm rubbing my own shoulder right now. No, the thing
nobody else is going to do it.
Not
in this room or audience.
When it comes to definitions, I do find myself having to inform the public on what these words mean, because nobody's ever asking questions like, what does that mean? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I know people always assume that they know and that their definition of it, or whatever definition they make up in their head, is correct. and we don't come to like an agreement before we have a discussion about what this means.
No, exactly. And that's kind of the problem, because language necessitates an agreement on, or at least a vague agreement on definition before you can communicate. Otherwise, what's the point of communication? And so we juggle around these words, and I get kind of frustrated sometimes because there's this perception that there's a ladder of disbelief. Mm-hmm. That sort of you go from like non-religious or spiritual, then you go agnostic, and then on top of the list is a certain position of atheism, and that's just wrong.
And I'll admit that's kind of how I was too. Like I said, I grew up Catholic. I was a great altar boy. I knew I could ring that bell at the right times. I knew all of that stuff. And then just as I learned more about the universe, I kept going another step, and then it was like deism, and then I was like trying to be agnostic, and that is kind of how I saw it. But ultimately, I had been atheist for a very long time.
Okay. Just for the sake of getting it out there, I feel like I might as well, since I already talked about it, I feel like I have to define them. If you don't mind, I'll try to do it quite quickly. So when people ask me what's the difference between agnosticism and atheism, the simplest answer is those are two different answers to two different questions. One is about what you know, and the other is about what you believe. So the simplest possible way to explain this is whenever you're making a decision, you don't act on knowledge, you act on belief.
Right.
Jay, if you or another person is at the bar and you see someone who you really like and you want to go chat with them, you're not going to wait for a complete data set before making a decision about whether or not you're going to go talk to them.
No, I'm just going to find them on Facebook and then stalk them for a while.
Well, certainly you're acquiring a data set then. But the idea here is that you're going to take the limited information you have and make a decision. And that's kind of what we have to do about all decisions. We have to take limited information and make a belief based off of it. And so when we analyze all of the claims about gods or deisms or any of the supernatural powers in the world, what we find is that...
Like flight?
Like flight?
Flight.
Like human flight?
Yeah. I just meant flight. I mean, things don't... I mean, flight, that's a superpower, right? Like birds are superpowered?
I'm not really sure that's how it works, but...
All right. Okay. I'm going to research this.
Okay. I implore you to use skepticism in this process.
Every bird I met was superpowered.
I heard they're telekinetic as well.
Well, don't be silly about this.
Oh, right, yes.
That's worms.
But anyway, when it comes to the ideas of Gnosticism or agnosticism, coming from the Greek word root of knowledge, it's kind of asking you, do you know, do you have a relative certainty about something or not? So on any subject, you can be Gnostic or agnostic. And about the concept of a God, I am very much an agnostic. I don't know. And
I'm nauseous.
You're nauseous? Nauseated.
Is that not one of them? Is that not a stance? Is that a belief?
To be pedantic, if you were nauseous, I would be nauseated. Yes.
Dead air. Okay. Let's be honest, Jeffrey. There's going to be times where you're going to say stuff that I don't understand, and then I'm just going to stare at you blankly.
Understand the correct application of adjectives and adverbs.
Don't educate me. I'm an American. I don't need your education.
English is my language. So I just love this idea, though, between this concept of agnosticism and atheism. Because when someone says, and I'll say I'm an atheist, and they'll say, well, I'm an agnostic. I'll say, well, me too. Because I'm an agnostic atheist. I don't believe, but I don't claim to have knowledge. And that can be true for theists as well. People who believe in God, but they're not sure. But then on the other hand, you'd also find Gnostic theists, so people who know there's a God. And that's what we call people of faith. So this is a very interesting
a lot of times
scale.
they're 100% sure.
I find that to be a very arrogant position, personally.
I would say so too. Because even though I don't believe there is a God, if I was shown proof, I would have to say, wow, all right, well, you've shown me proof. I might have to believe in that God, but that doesn't mean I'm going to worship him. Him, her.
Oh, yes. I
and
think
that's a different thing.
And I as well am very willing to change my position on that. And I like to ask when I'm in a formal debate with someone, I'll like to ask them, "Are you willing to say the same?" And oftentimes, what you find is the answer is no.
Right.
I personally find atheism to be the most humble position. It's the one saying, "I don't know, and I'm not going to make a decision until there's sufficient evidence." And you can't go wrong with that.
Can't go wrong with not knowing.
Especially in the Bible fanny pack.
We're going to get this started. You heard it here first on the Open Mic Gripe. Up here in the North Dakota, Minnesota area, we are the Bible fanny pack.
Well,
did you know that be careful if you see people with fanny packs, because that's where a lot of people carry their guns.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely serious about that. So don't make fun of people with fanny packs.
No crap.
Yeah, because that's probably where they're carrying the gun. I mean, it's easy access, you know?
Easy access?
Yeah.
And it's stylish as hell.
I know. I have a leather fanny pack, and yeah, I like it. I mean, okay, hold on. I'm going to back up. Because I don't really want... No, I had a leather fanny pack, and when they were in style, it was very stylish, and I liked it.
He wears it every Friday.
Oh, yes, I do. All right, let's not talk about that, though.
Yeah, no, okay, so typically at this point of the conversation, what we'd like to do is have feedback from the audience, participation from those who are listening, and most importantly, we'd like to hear from everyone else. But since this is the first episode, since this is the inaugural episode, we haven't really had any feedback yet. And so what I did was I went out and I asked a group of our friends to come up with a list of cliches or things that they have heard, people who are atheist or some of the people who are not atheist, and the cliches that they know of about atheism.
Kind of like the myths, even, possibly. So, what was the most common one that you heard?
Oh, geez. Well, the most common one that I heard, and this is coming from a good friend of mine, is that atheists are religious too, or that you have to have faith to be an atheist.
Okay, yeah, I've heard this, and I know, and before I really would talk to a lot of people about atheism, when I would say that, they would say like, "Oh yeah, it's a religion," and it wasn't until I finally heard this analogy that I really like. And now I say this to everybody because they say atheism. If atheism is a religion, abstinence is a sex position.
Yes, that's very similar to the one I like very much as well, which is to say, if you say, "What's your favorite TV channel?" and you say off, or what's your, what color is your bald hair? So it's kind of a non-color, it's a non-channel, and it's a non-sex position. It's not. It's just kind of walking away from the established societal constructs. But I personally find this argument to be, ill-informed, but I can forgive that, especially when it comes to some of the other things we've heard, which I think are a little bit more demonizing.
Yeah. Speaking of demonizing, I think one of the big ones that I heard that is, atheists eat babies.
Oh yeah,
and I think being a comedian, this is the one that bothers me because it's such an old, tired joke. Yes. I think that's what really bothers me about it is that even I'm on many groups on Facebook or whatever that atheism groups, and just the amount of times that joke comes up, it is just so tiresome and so ridiculous.
Well, you also have to understand that different people are coming out to themselves at different stages. And so for a lot of people, being able to embrace these old cliches is actually quite comforting. But obviously to us at this point, it's kind of frustrating that people can't really get over it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and especially since I have ate so many babies, I mean, I'm over it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an acquired taste, and I just didn't acquire it.
I don't know. That was such an old joke. I knew I was going to use that one. It's so crap.
All joking aside, and I'm not joking here in the Bible fanny pack, the local Baptist church started this horrendous rumor that the only women's clinic in all of North Dakota So if you're pro-choice or anti-choice, there's only one clinic in the entire state of North Dakota which provides abortion access to women. And they started this rumor, the Baptist Church did, that the fetal remains were used in the local production of Coca-Cola.
Excellent.
I don't know what they have against Coca-Cola, but either way, it makes you think twice.
Twice about drinking a Coke?
Yes.
I think the fact that it actually takes, tar off of vehicles made me think more twice about it than the fact that there might be babies in it.
Well, it could be more nutritious.
Hey, I'll drink up them stem cells. I'll grow a third eye if I want. It sounds great to me.
Yeah, science.
Isn't that how it works? I just ingest stem cells and then I can make them do whatever I want.
Jeez.
Like flight!
Yeah, so you just go ahead. You try that. Let's document it over the course of this podcast, and we'll see how it goes.
You realize you don't have to talk with your hands. This is a podcast, right?
Yeah, I think you do have to talk with your hands. Just like when you're on the phone, you smile. Why would you smile when you're on the phone? It's because the way you speak.
I don't when I'm on the phone with you.
No, but people can sense these things. They can sense when you're smiling, even over the phone.
I know, and I have such a hard time talking to you over the phone. Because he talks like this all the time.
Yeah.
This isn't just like for the podcast. Like, he sounds this pretentious all the time.
I'll take that as a compliment, thank you.
You can take that as a compliment if you would like.
But back to the subject matter. Here's another one that another friend of ours wrote. He said, atheists, he had heard this growing up a lot, is that atheists don't believe anything. And there seems to be a sense of nihilism or just feudalism to this idea that if you're an atheist, it means that you can have no structured beliefs. It just means you're walking around doubting everything, which I think is a misunderstanding of how critical thinking works.
I mean, atheists are much more skeptical. We definitely question, and again, this is not all atheists, but many atheists do question a lot more.
Oh, yes.
We do want a little bit more proof, or at least maybe a better theory.
Well, to be absolutely fair, let's remind our listeners that there are atheists out there who believe that aliens control the world. There are atheists out there who believe in conspiracy theories and such that are...
Are you saying these aren't true?
I'm saying that they should not be taken as true until sufficiently demonstrated. So that's the point. Is that you can be an atheist and not be an extremely rational person about all things. So, but generally, I would agree with you. I would say that atheists they use their critical faculties more often.
Yeah, I'm worried about the Illuminati.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, just personally. I'm just personally worried about them.
They've got your number.
No, I'm worried about them. I should give them a call, see how they're doing. I'm just really worried about them.
Seeing how they're holding up,
yeah,
considering the controversy.
I feel like all those movies about them have really put their spirits down.
Well, it's kind of hard to take that public meeting,
Again, I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, So I know you also asked your friends. What did you come up with?
I think the one that really gets me is when people say, "Oh, you're an atheist. Oh, you must have no morals. Why aren't you out there just raping and killing everybody?" And I'm like, okay, first of all, when they say that means I erase them from my phone book, because if that's their thought, then that means that the only thing that's stopping them from going out and raping and killing people is their very immoral book that talks about raping and killing people.
I was just going to say, if anything was going to get to rape and kill, it would be a holy book.
Yes.
No, this is a funny one because it completely negates the fact that we understand anything about human morality, which, of course, we've had a long and extensive study on human history. I love ethics and morality.
Well, it's like, how did we even continue as a species before the Bible then?
Yeah.
Because why didn't we just, there were two people. Well, you know what? Did Adam and Eve have the Bible? I don't think so. Why didn't they just kill each other? Because they didn't have the Bible.
I think, as much as I don't like him, I think Bill Maher touched on this. He said something like, so let me understand that everybody was raping and murdering and killing each other, and then Moses came down from the mount and the Ten Commandments, and they're like, oh yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. it takes a lot to suggest that morality comes from a holy book.
Right.
But, wow, morals. I think generally when you find that secularly minded people have typically a greater sense of empathy for the diversity of people and not just the majority.
And I definitely agree with that because although this is not across the board, I do find that many of the atheists that I meet are also humanitarians. They're for everything, basically rights for all people.
Also, at this point, I think it's very important to point out that anytime you hear or talk to an atheist online...
let's just be honest, everybody online is pretty awful.
Yeah.
Because of anonymity.
Yeah, I catch myself moderating groups online, and I will constantly kick people out because... And I'll ask them, I'll say, would you ever speak to a human being like this in person? And if they say yes, then they're just a horrible person and I don't want them around. If they say no, they have a chance to change their behavior. But, I mean, quite simply, the behaviors you see online are just embarrassing sometimes when it comes to atheists. They tend to troll.
Well, and even I'm glad that I grew up before there was an internet. And so I actually realized, like, the ideas of manners and being polite, and that is not separate from me being on the internet. Like, when I'm on the internet... even when I text, I still write out full words. I do not. I do not understand many of the shortened words. I never LOL. I absolutely hate that. That would be one of my gripes. I cannot stand LOL.
I've actually written LOL, but that's only when I've actually been laughing out loud.
Oh, at least that helps because I cannot stand when, like, I work in an office, and so I'll say something. Over ping, and then they'll type LOL, and I'm like, you son of a bitch. I am in the cube next to you, and you did not laugh out loud. That is not the correct use of that.
Well, I'm really glad that you're on the watch.
I am, and I'm very upset. Don't you dare LOL me without laughing out
loud. So that's the first challenge to listeners out there. Everyone, make sure to include at least one LOL in your tweet or in your email.
I will come to your house and I will make you laugh out loud.
He can say that since Homeland Security lost its funding soon.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
No,
I can drive there.
Oh, okay. I think this topic is obviously way too deep to cover every aspect of things. But to be able to go over some of the major gripes is really a treat, just because I know this is not going to be a subject that we're going to be covering every week. Certainly, if people call in with religious issues, I really want to hear about it. I sincerely hope to hear from a number of different religious backgrounds, people who think so-and-so did, whatever regarding atheism.
And obviously we want to hear about all different religions, but we also want to hear about everything. I mean, I do want to drive that point home.
Yes.
I mean, I know, Jeffrey, you want to speak about politics and other...
Why do you say it that way?
And other really boring stuff. And what I want to talk about is, like ideas of girls not being able to find the right size pants for them. Or how dudes can't catch a frisbee.
What? Why can't dudes catch a frisbee?
Because they have no hands.
Dudes?
Well, not all dudes. I'm just talking about dudes without hands that can't catch frisbees. I'm sure that's really upsetting to them.
That's a really specific gripe.
Well, I'm sure it's out there.
That's true. Okay. Well, challenge number 2. If you are a dude without hands and like to share your gripe about lack of frisbee catching...
Just type us a quick... Oh, I'm sorry.
Text to... voice the text.
Voice the text us.
Most importantly, though, I have to emphasize what I said at the beginning of the show, which is I look forward to having a lot of fun on this show, but at some point, having fun is always going to be insensitive to some crowds.
Right. Oh, and as I know when we were talking about starting this, I know you were very worried about me and about the things that I would say. And the thing is like you say, you don't hold anything sacred, but neither do I. And I feel like you can make fun of anything. You just have to be ready for the consequences that come with that. And I realize, and I hope people realize that a lot of times I am just going to be trying to make fun of some things, but that at the same time doesn't mean that I don't want people to call in and talk about some of the serious issues. I mean, obviously, if you're talking about something very serious, you might not hear a lot from me.
No, I think you have an interesting take on all these different issues.
Well, and realize, too, you're not always just going to hear from us. We are going to get guests in, and we're going to be doing some interviews, whether they be over the phone or actually getting people here into the studio. We do want people to call in, come in, and join us for a lot of these conversations. What are you doing? Yeah, get your hands out of your pants, Jeffrey.
Oh, what? Come on. No.
Well, hey, listen, men need to adjust, right?
Adjustments are allowed, especially in the privacy of one's home.
Right, and you know what? Maybe that's another gripe somebody would have, is just men adjusting themselves in public.
Really?
What?
Well, I want to hear that gripe, and then I want to make fun of it.
Well, you're gonna make fun of it?
No, I'm guilty as as much as the next person, but it's a subconscious reaction to things. It's not something that I would.
You subconsciously adjust yourself to situations?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a whole episode in itself. That says volumes about your psyche.
Really? No, I when I'm in public, I am actively aware as much as possible where my hands are. Because you know this, as a public speaker yourself, when you're aware of where your hands are, you're able to focus and not do any nervous tics.
Oh, very true.
So,
But you subconsciously adjust yourself in certain situations.
I don't really think much about it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the definition of subconsciously.
Right. No, I understand that. What I'm saying is, if I was actively considering it, I'm not going to reach down, grab my nuts, and adjust.
Don't you know the little sidestep move?
The sidestep move?
Yeah.
Is that the same one that people use to get wedgies out?
Yeah, actually, yeah. It pretty much is the same thing. Get that wedgie out. You kind of adjust yourself.
Sorry, that just makes it worse. It really does. If you do the sidestep wedge remove or the sidestep ball shift, it just makes it worse. Get it over with. Get it out of the way.
I find it comforting when I do the sidestep. Sidestep ball adjust.
I find that's a temporary solution. It's not. I like to solve things once and for all. And yeah.
All right, everybody, you heard it here first. Jeffrey is a fan of suicide when his balls are stuck to his leg. It's like, that's it. I'm done with it. Over.
Enough of this shit.
That is a permanent solution.
No, guys have to deal with this all the time, but I think I would have to make fun of somebody who had to gripe to justify their desire to touch their balls without ridicule in public. I mean, that's kind of
I'm surprised, because I'm surprised I'm surprised you don't take that stance.
Why?
The way that you want to desensitize everybody to everything. Okay, just so you know, a little background. Jeffrey talks about masturbation all the time.
I do.
He wants to desensitize everybody because, again, being in North Dakota, he wants to desensitize people to this conversation of sexuality. So I am surprised that you do not take the stance that I should be able to adjust myself whenever, wherever, however I want.
But you understand, though, when I make comments about masturbation in public, I'm not actually talking about my masturbatory habits. I'm actually talking about, in general, masturbation. And so the difference there being...
I am shaking my head in a no fashion because you are constantly talking about your masturbatory habits.
No, only amongst friends, not amongst strangers. Amongst strangers, they get the generic masturbation topic.
Wait. So just so people know, what in what sense are you going to be talking about masturbation to our audience?
You know,
do you consider them strangers or friends?
Honestly, I have very few gripes about masturbation.
That's true.
With the exception, of course, that you can't.
Do it alone.
By definition, I hope so.
Well, then why is there such a thing called mutual masturbation?
Yeah, I know. What I was thinking, so to back up just one more second, When I moved to Fargo, North Dakota, I casually mentioned the concept of masturbation, and everybody stumbled.
I casually mentioned the concept of masturbation, something North Dakotans have never heard.
Well, honestly, by the look on their faces, I thought so. And so I
that.
set out to desensitize everyone to this idea. So at least, and now, of course, it's been I would consider a massive success. I find other people around me casually bringing up the subject as much as they bring up dinner.
It was, you did, remember we were going to talk about how I'm letting out secrets? You did in private tell me that it was your mission to mention masturbation so much as to desensitize everybody around you.
Did it work?
You know what? Now when it gets brought up, everybody is like, oh, that's just Jeffrey.
Well, that worked.
So in a way it worked. It worked to make yourself be the masturbation guy.
That is a crown I will bear. Heavy is the head, but that's a crown I will bear.
Heavy is that tiny head that wears that crown.
No, I think overall, though, if somebody
that was a dick joke there because that was the little head I was talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Did you pick up on that?
Can you draw me an illustration?
I probably could. It's gonna be crude.
No, I think as a whole, the only gripe I can ever imagine is that around here, people tend to feel that sexuality is something that you just should never talk about outside of your, bedroom. And yeah. I think it's one of the most interesting topics.
I'm sure it is something that will actually come up in a future podcast. I'm sure. And again, we actually do want to get some professionals in here.
Yes.
To talk about things such as sexuality. Privacy is one thing. Actually, what are let's just give a little preview. What are some things that we want to talk about in the future? I mean, I know one thing that I'm very interested in is privacy and the fact that, and especially with everything that is going on. I mean, everything that we learned with Snowden and everything that our government's doing. Privacy is a huge thing. And then one thing is I don't want to waste that one early. Is I want to get in somebody that really understands it more than I do. Because I have no problem admitting that a lot of things I'm going to talk about, I don't really understand.
Well, I think when it comes to privacy and transparency of government, transparency of the individual, we're hypocrites in so many of these things. So I think it's going to be an amazingly interesting topic. And I'm hoping to get a range of people calling in from you're going to get someone to say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, so what do I care? Oh, yeah.
So why don't we, okay, if you're not doing anything wrong, no problem. I'll come over and I'll just install a camera in your shower. Hey, you're not doing anything wrong. You've got nothing to hide. You should have no problem with that.
Right. No, so I mean, I'm hoping to hear a range on that. The privacy issue is one that's causing a lot of concern around here, I've noticed.
Oh, well, and it should be around the country. But you know what? Let's just say they did just vote big win for net neutrality.
Yes, with net neutrality, that was huge. And speaking of net neutrality, I was talking to a good friend of mine about this. Okay, so depending on when you hear this podcast, this may or may not make sense. But very recently, there's a craze going on the internet about a optical illusion about the dress that you can't determine the color of. Is it black and blue or is it white and gold?
Which, by the way, is baloney because I saw baby blue and gold.
Well, regardless of what you saw, it is a definite color. But the point is everybody's going nuts for this. It's an optical illusion. It's like optical illusions are new. But at the same time, net neutrality laws just passed through with the FCC, and nobody's talking about it. I mean, that is the future of the internet, the future of corporations getting their fingers on how we use the internet, and nobody's talking about that. That's kind of surprising.
And I think that this kind of shows, too, where our interests lie. I mean, one thing that we are going to talk about, we're going to talk about things like net neutrality, especially when nobody else is talking about it, but at the same time, we might talk about that stupid dress.
Really?
Well, I mean, I'm using it as an example. I really don't want to talk about that.
Unless you're talking about the history of Bill Clinton, I think I'd rather not talk about the stupid dress.
What happened?
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gripe. I'm hoping to bring on a range of speakers and guests. We talked a little bit about speakers. Well, one of the things you have to look for in the future is having a number of different scientific speakers. We're going to have political speakers bringing on subjects and talking to them about it. I'm hoping to bring on some comedians as well.
No, I'm hoping to bring on comedians.
You're hoping to bring on comedians?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to bring on politicians and boring people. I want to bring
Scientists are boring
I want to
people?
bring on funny people, people with something interesting to say.
Well, speaking of masturbation.
What a segue.
I'm going to bring on my good friend, sexual psychologist Dr. Daryl Ray.
Excellent.
A extremely well published, and he has his own podcast as well. And I'm hoping to get him on and to talk about a lot of different issues on human sexuality. That'll be interesting. Mm-hmm. I'd love to as well get various bloggers and activists from around the world.
I mean, and honestly, I want to get everybody, people on the street. One more thing before we kind of get out of here. We do want to let everybody know that we are out to get the complaints of the everyday people. One thing that we had talked about is we are actually going to go out to nursing homes.
Yes.
We're going to go out to nursing homes and get their gripes, kind of their complaints about things. Actually go out to playgrounds and talk to kids. I don't...
Now that you say it that way. No.
Maybe I'm going to ask parents if we can interview their kids.
That's a much better idea.
And really get, because we really do want to get, I mean, not only do we want serious and silly, but we want everybody. I mean, we really do want everybody to kind of chime in and give their gripe.
And I don't think, as much as we would consider a 10-year-old's opinion to be slightly immature, their gripes matter. And I think sometimes we forget what it's like to be a 10-year-old.
Yeah, and come on, that might be hilarious.
Yes. Are you going to make fun of them?
Oh, then I'm just going to rip them a new one.
Oh, jeez.
oh, man. I don't, can we edit that part out? I don't want to. Okay, you know what? All right, you know what? Let's.
No edits.
All right, so obviously today we talked a little bit about atheism and some of the myths and things and the gripes that atheists might have. We've obviously went a little bit off the rails on other things that we might go on over the show. Oh my goodness! Again, like I said, if you have anything, if you felt like we are wrong, inappropriate, or biased, make sure to get in contact with us.
And thank you again for understanding that one of the beautiful parts of this show is the limited editing that goes into it. When I say limited, what I mean is we're adding the intro song, and that's about it.
That's about all that's going on. Oh man! So you know what, Jeffrey and I would really like to thank you for joining us and listening to the Open Mic Gripe, the place where serious and silly complaints come to chat.
Yes, we'll be bringing you new episodes every week, and we're going to encourage everyone to participate by sending your gripes, grievances, and opinions to openmicgripe, one word, openmicgripe@gmail.com, or tweet us at openmicgripe.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and you know what? If you didn't, check us out next week when we will be discussing your gripe.
Thank you so much.